I think that while we're talking, the 17th Amendment was another amendment that really screwed things up. The 17th Amendment gave the senators to be elected by the population.
Yeah, yeah.
And before that, they were appointed by the states. And the problem they were having is the longest reigning senator until the 17th Amendment came around was in there for like 2 or 3 years. And then the Senate, the first thing every house had to do, or state house had to do, is, do we want to keep the senator there? Because the Senate is supposed to be the voice of the people. I mean, the voice of the state. It's the voice of the state. That's the reason there's two of them. The House is supposed to be a representative of the people. And now, basically, when they passed the 17th Amendment, they took the power of the states to have control over the federal government away. So there's no way for the states' representatives to rein it in.
Well, yeah, the great thing, the founding fathers said that the house would be where they boiled the tea, right? And it was supposed to be a lot of conflict and a lot of people, just screaming and yell at each other because you have all these different areas. California is unique because it's such a large state. But you think this was 13 colonies. You had like Rhode Island, and you had Virginia. I mean, these were small states.
Delaware, yeah.
Delaware, these are small states. And so they said we're going to have representatives for each growth of people, and they're going to be in there. They're going to be hashing it out. They're going to be making coalitions. They're going to be working together with these groups to try and convince this group, and it's just going to be a mess. And they knew it was going to be a mess, but the thing was, it would force you to work with other people. And once you got a bill written and passed through the House, everybody was like, "Yeah, it passed through the House." Okay, so now we know we're not treading on other people. The whole thing was not to go fast. It was to
It
go
was supposed to
fast
be
enough
slow.
where you didn't oppress people, and slow enough where you didn't
Well,
oppress things. And
Woodrow
then it would go
Wilson's
over
the
the, well,
Woodrow
then it was supposed to
Wilson's
go
the
over to the Senate,
yeah.
and the Senate was supposed to be this long drawn out process of people talking, and it was supposed to be where they cooled it down and they said, "Whoa, whoa, 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 we're looking at this law and we're taking our time." It was a 6-year term, so they wanted people to be a little longer in the tooth, a little more understanding. It wasn't a 2-year term like the House. And they said these senators were going to be, usually they were hoping that they would be statesmen, people who already had a lot of experience, kind of the elder. And then they would look at these laws and they would say, "Okay, well, I think we need to make a change in here before we can pass this, youngsters, you youngsters in the House. Before we can pass this, I think you need to make these changes." It would go back to the House, and then the House would debate on it some more, and then it would come back to the Senate. And once the Senate said this is good, it would go to the president. The president would say, "Okay, I'm going to veto it," or whatever. And that process was to make it slow enough so that enough people could have their input and make things work. And it was really a great thing. Now, the reason they took away the way that the senators were elected was because they wanted to control the Senate. And this is exactly what happened. The Senate
Well, they
wasn't
could get
elected by
nothing
the
done.
people.
Yeah.
Senators weren't elected by the people. They were elected by the representatives. So if you had 50 representatives like
The
California,
state representatives,
the state representatives, exactly,
yeah.
they had a vested interest in making sure that that senator didn't stab them in the back, because if they voted for a senator and that senator did something bad for their county, they were losing their seat.
Yeah, because if you read the article, I forget the article, but I've read it where they established the Congress. There was no like 6-year term. It was like you could be in there for life as long as you got the people back in your house at your state to keep putting you in. And
Well, this
until they passed the 17th Amendment, the longest serving senator was like 2.5, 3 years. They were always rotating them in and out because you would get a new house. Those senators didn't do what the states wanted, they just pull them out and get rid of them, and they put a new guy in.
yeah, I can
They're,
I'm sure that was
so
another. Okay,
so
so
the 6-year, the 17th Amendments gave them the term 6 years because they were sent by the state. So every year the state had to go in and reaffirm that that's the guy they want in the House. I mean, in Capitol Hill. And they didn't get anything done.